சொல்லுங்க சொல்லுங்க. ஓகே, நாளைக்கு கொடுக்க முடியுமா? சரிம்மா, ஓகே, நாளைக்கு கொடுங்க.
You can start.
ஓகே.
Ellarku namaskara. Very warm welcome to all the wonderful viewers for the 17th edition of VHS Online Samvada, brought to you by VHS Karnataka. We are wonderful 16 episodes of Samvada from VHS Karnataka until today, including last Friday on preservation and protection of our heritage by Shri Ajay Jagaji. What an amazing session was that. Our Indic civilization dates back to many millennia, and lakhs of magnificent sacred devasthanams were built across Akhanda Bharat for many thousands of years. We can find ancient devasthanam ruins all over all the continents. Every village in Bharat had associated devasthanam along with the community learning centers at home. Thriving ecosystems revolved around the devasthanams for thousands of years. These were centers of learning for all the Varnas without any discrimination until the invaders and the colonizers came in and looted our devasthanams and destroyed them. Each devasthanam is presided by a deity who literally owns the devasthanam. All these devasthanam preserved dharmic values, cultures, traditions, knowledge, dharma, spirituality, Vedas, science, maths, scriptures, astrology, astronomy, technology for thousands of years. The evil invaders and colonizers not only looted wealthy devasthanams, but plundered them and converted them into mosques or churches. Goan Inquisition is a classic example of church atrocities. We can also imagine the amount of devasthanam loot these invaders had inflicted had done on India, on our devasthanams. One classic example which has been left over is Sri Padmanabha Swami Devasthanam in Kerala. The wealth found in the olds goes upwards 100 billion, B for billion, boy. Now I will leave this to you to do the calculation for rest of thousands of Devasthanam which has been looted across Akhanda Bharat. For about 4 decades, even our deities are not safe in the temples from the notorious looters. Some numbers say more than 10,000 deities from different devasthanams has been stolen, which our today's speaker is going to talk about. Today's topic on this Samvada is bringing back our gods home. To talk about this, we have a really special guest speaker, Shri S. Vijay Kumar ji, co-founder, India Pride Project. Vijay ji is a regular speaker and columnist for many dailies. His passion is about sculptures and Devasthanam art. Vijay ji has been instrumental in tracking of high-profile tracked Bharati artifacts for past 16 years and worked closely with various pan-global organizations assisting in their restitution efforts. His background work led to the dramatic 20 million raids conducted by Homeland Security, USA, during the Asia Week in NYC. Apart from a key role in uncovering the antiquity smuggle network of Subhash Kapoor and $108 million seize of 2,622 objects in America. The same is chronicled in his non-fiction book titled The Idol Thief, which VHS Karnataka released in 2018 in Bengaluru. Vijayji is also instrumental in tracking of many artifacts that PM Modi got from USA 2 weeks back. Vijayji has also been involved in capacity building efforts with various global enforcement agencies, including Interpol, Europol, and DRI, Indian Customs, ASI, and CBI. He is also conducting free workshops in schools and colleges, encourage the next generation to take up an interest in our art. I'm also joined by Shri Nikunsha ji, VHS Karnataka State President, Shri Santosh Elleri, and Shri Tejas from our technical team. Now I request Sri Santosh to invite our special guest speaker. Santosh, please go ahead, please.
Hello, Vijay. Welcome to VHS Karnataka Initiative. We are so excited to have you here. We are interested, we are excited to witness and listen to you of your 16 years journey. The stage is all yours. Please share us your experience.
Thank you, Tejas and team, and it's a pleasure to be speaking in this August forum. So instead of me talking, I thought the visuals tell a better story. So bulk of today is going to be a visual storytelling medium. So I'm just going to start. So basically, what I've tried to do is try to show uh, this journey as how I would view it. So this is the start. What you're seeing is the India Pride project, and I'll show you why we named it the India Pride project. Is we wanted to restore India's pride one Murti at a time, and that's why we have this hashtag Bring Our Gods Home. So before I start with our work, it's customary that it's been my great pleasure to understand the beauty of these wonderful creations of our ancestors. I salute the unknown artists and sculptors who created these divine works. A first salute to them. To the kings and chieftains who supported them, basically they took care of their needs so that they could create these brilliant works. And then to people like you and me who continue to still enjoy them. So 2 years ago, we cracked a big case in London of a very significant Murti. And I just wanted to show the visuals so that you understand what I mean of bringing our gods home. This was the Murti, Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, as they were put a price tag and sold in an auction or tried to be sold by a UK dealer. And this is what happened. And this was the ceremony when they were restituted back to India. And here you see the transformation of the gods who've been reduced to being showpiece curios, coming back to becoming the gods they are. And for us, I'll show you later how we cracked this case. And in fact, these murtis have gone home. They were stolen in 1978. So I'm very proud that we would manage to bring these back. Even though there is still the job is 80% done, the Hanuman of this group is still outside India, and we hope to bring him back soon. Uh, I just wanted to show a few more pictures of what kind of sacrifices and efforts our ancestors took to protect these sacred deities, murtis, where they considered to them to be bodies of God. And what you see on screen is about 2 years ago, Nataraja, who was buried for safety. In the early part of the 14th century, there were raids in South India and Central India. Our gods were under threat. And because of the Agamas, they prescribed how to safeguard these murtis in face of an external threat. They bury a pit and line it with grass, charcoal, and then face down, the murtis go down. And for some reason, which has not been explained properly or not been studied properly, the custodians who went to such great extents to protect our gods, because the threat was there only for 3 to 6 months. Why? The larger question is, why didn't they bring them back to worship? And this is something that's been baffling a lot of experts. And the only thing that I could think of was, are the custodians gave up their lives rather than reveal the location of their gods because they knew he would be melted or destroyed. And this is another salute that we all owe it to our ancestors who probably gave up their lives to protect their gods. And this is how the Nataraja came up. And what is so brilliant in this story is that as soon as he is got out, people have started worshipping him. One was he's been buried for about 650 years, and you actually see the beauty of our ancestral craftsmen who could craft something so divine that has stayed underground for over 6 millennia, and then still he is able to come back to worship. Now, having said that, I'd also like you to understand the difference between a buried bronze and the bronze that's under continuous worship, because this is something that we need to explain to people. Now, what is happening is, this is a bronze that's obviously in the Tanjore Big Temple, the main deity that was one of the surviving bronzes donated by the great King Rajaraja Chola. And you can actually see the difference in the face that's been under constant worship. Compare this to a bronze that's buried, there is a greenish patina that comes. Unfortunately, these buried hoards have been smuggled out by the hundreds, because we'll talk about what we can do to sort this. But the finders have been selling them for weight, and these bronzes are ending up. I'll show you where they are ending up. But not all of them are like that. We also have to take a bit of a blame. These are two murtis that are currently, that were till recently in a temple. And you actually see how badly ruined the temple is, with termite mounds in the background. So, my sincere request to people, please go to your villages, visit your Kula Devatas, visit your temples, make sure there is footfall, and make sure that you take care of at least safeguarding such great, these are our Kuladanas, or these are ancestral treasures, and a sacred duty to protect them. Having laid that as a start point, I just wanted to convey to you what is a threat and what is it that they are battling, or what is it that we are battling, because the collecting lobby cabal is something that a lot of people don't understand the amount of money power they have. And I take you into the art world. So for the next 10 minutes, I wanted to show you a preview of this dark gray market that is uncontrolled. Nobody polices it. It spans the globe. And there you see a stone cyst bodhisattva that was auctioned a few years back in Hong Kong. And you'd be quite surprised. This is from the Pala dynasty, that is Orissa, West Bengal, current day Bangladesh border area. And this bronze left that time India about 8 years ago, and you will be surprised to know the value it fetched. So these are the kind of market values that we are talking about for some of the prized artworks. And I'd like you to note that this is in US dollars. So this is the overall size of the art market. I'm just going to not going to read the numbers, but you can see that it's doubling every decade. So from 2005 to 2015, it's doubled. The global market art market share, of course, it's lying with the rest world colonial powers. UK and EU is about 40%. US, the new billionaires, is 40%. Of course, China is 20%, but Chinese are very, very specific. They look at purely Chinese art. So the traditional markets are UK, EU, and the US. So inside the art market, we go into the antiquities market, the similar distribution you see. So what are the roots of this trade? These are the roots of the trade. From India, they are taken to transit points in Hong Kong, where the actual inspection happens, money laundering happens, Hawala movement happens. The smugglers get paid through Hawala, and if they require some sort of restoration, which I'll show you what the robbers do, and then they take into London, where they are restored, and from there they reach the markets in Zurich, and then from Zurich they're brought out as property of a Swiss collector, which basically washes all their history. I'll go into each of these in detail, but then I'd like you to know that the US has been a champion since 2007, but that's not without a reason. I'm going to explain to you why the US. It's one of the biggest markets, of course, but something happened in 2007. As you can see, these different colored worms. The IPL is going on, the last matches. So this is the worm, and you can see the green worm is actually India. But sometime in 2007, you see most of the trade has taken a dip. And this is not an actual dip. It just means the open market has dropped. The art has moved indoors, closed doors, and private market sales, which I'll come to later. But what pushed this? So this was the time the US started seriously looking at it. They started conducting surveys, and you can actually see when they interviewed archaeologists, they said about 80, 98% said yes, looting exists. 90% said in all countries, and 80% actually saw looting happen. And most of it is actually revalidating that this is not a past crime. This is not a colonial phenomenon. This is active looting on the site that is denuding our heritage sites as we speak. And is this a border control problem? Again, this is what we pushed back to the US, for example. Some of the shipments that we monitored, they were declared as garden furniture. So if our borders were so porous to allow them out as garden furniture, the US borders were so porous to allow them inbound, imports as garden furniture. At this point is when the US started realizing the connection to it was not just a nameless, faceless crime, this antiquities trafficking, but it was also linked to money laundering. I'll explain to you what that is. It was also linked to international terrorism, tax fraud, and transnational organized crime. So they did a couple of surveys, and it was translated to this slide, which basically shows an average cost of an antiquity in the open market. How many guns or bombs can they make? And that's where it hit hard the US government, and they put their satellites to look at their territory. And here you're seeing actually before after photographs of Syria and Iraq, wherein you can see all those small dots in the 2014 are actually illicit digs licensed by Al Qaeda and Daesh. So basically, terrorism outfits were benefiting from antiquities digs. Now, so many holes you see. What happened to all these sites? Objects that were excavated, they don't come into the market immediately. The art market works on what is called fencing. And here you see what is a fence. This is an example of a British dealer who had a room locked inside the Swiss report in Geneva for 30 years. For 30 years, this room was not opened. And when finally the Italian police raided this room, it yielded $20 million worth of fresh antiquities. And for 30 years, he had not opened it. So this was the holding power of the dealer collector network, and there are 55 such reports around the world. And what they hold, nobody knows. There is no record of entry, there is no record of exit. Now, combine that with the private sales. As you can see, the light blue private sales is growing. What all this does, this is what happens. The motifs that we worship, this is a loving priest who has basically bathed the murti, clothed it, ornamented it, and is lovingly showing it a mirror to ask him that is he okay with the makeup. So that's how personally he gets involved in decorating the murti. And what happens to these movies when they are trafficked abroad? Here you see actual photographs of an auction that is happening in New York, where our movies are putting a price tag and they are being inspected by prospective buyers. And this is what we mean. They've been made into showpiece curios, literally showpiece curios. What happens after these guys buy it? This is what happens, and these are going to be painful visuals for you. These are the rich and the famous in Bollywood, in Hollywood. Their swimming pools and our sacred murtis are lining their swimming pools. This is not a random phenomenon. This seems to be a fashion for them, and this goes on. I don't want to put more troubling images, but seems to be a collecting fetish from the colonial era. I just give you two examples. These are bronzes that were excavated by the Danish collector, and what he did, he took it from Tankebar, which was a Danish colony in South India. He gave it to the Prince of Denmark. He sold it to the Prince of Denmark. They are now in Denmark. He told them, the local priest who cried to him to say, please give us back our murti. He said, no, they've lost power. There is no temple near me. He lied. Just behind the wall where he dug these bronzes out, there is a Shiva temple from the Chola era still standing today. And he told them they've lost power. And to the Prince of Denmark, he said he bought it from the locals. But actually, if you look at what he gave them a bag of rice and some betel nut. That's it. That was his payment. Similarly, I have examples in Karnataka for which Lowenthal, who actually took about 88 Hoysala sculptures, they're again exhibited in the Denmark National Museum. He gave the locals a pair of spectacles, some slippers, and all that. So a lot of people think the white man bought it from us, but it's not true. Similarly, this is a case of Vishnu Murthy from Coimbatore, wherein this was a buried hoard again in 1897. The temple bid up to 1,000 rupees, but they were outbid by Lord Curzon, the Viceroy of India. And what did the Viceroy do? He immediately bequeathed it to a V&A. These three murtis are currently there. When the temple in Coimbatore, the Karivarda Perumal temple, stands forlorn, it's a very sad reminder of what the great temple it was. So all this keeps happening, but not only that, some of these bronzes, when they go into private collectors, they're never to be seen again. The scholarship is lost, context is lost. This is a portrait sculpture from the Kalahasti temple that was stolen in 1930s. They've never been seen again. This is the Lokama Devi, his queen, again not to be seen. And they also started practicing in the 1950s and 60s, making replicas. And here you see the Rama and Sita are original Chola, the Lakshmana is a later day bronze. So when I talk to you, you can see the metal is different, the style is different. This is simpler to view. The Rama and Sita, Rama is original, Sita is fake. So what happens to the original? It's all auctioned, and they were openly auctioning it. And these were auctioned for ridiculous prices. And some of the objects that are coming up for sale, for example, this brilliant Vijayanagara bronze was sold for $3 million. And where do these end up, the stone murtis? People don't ask even basic questions. So you see this Varaha in the David Osley collection of the Denver Museum. You can actually see that the legs have been crudely cut off, but nobody who's at the museum asked them what happened to his legs. So we can explain to him this was another case, not the same Varaha. This is in Devgarh, and you can actually see this brilliant Varaha is about 10 feet tall. In 2007, this happened. The robbers actually hacked off his legs, and you actually see why they did that. The leg is anchored to the pida, the pedestal. So they were. This was so heavy that they actually broke it at the feet, and this is the reason why most of our murtis abroad are cut off at the legs. And this is exact case where people realize that the dollar-driven greed is what its damage is doing on the ground. But it is a crime that people like wildlife when they see it, they see the elephant dead or the rhino dead. This is exactly the parallel to it in artifact. Now, the museums absolutely don't care. And this is the first exhibit in the Metropolitan Museum. And what you're seeing is this stoneware from Chandraketugar in West Bengal. And here we come to what Prime Minister Modi is bringing back now. Majority of the artifacts are from Chandraketugar. I'm going to explain what are coming back, why they are coming back in the second half of the session. But what you're seeing here is a gift in honor of his daughter by Subhash Kapoor that is still the first exhibit in the Metropolitan Museum, totally unpronounced. I can say this with confidence is because every museum in the world, every dealer in this world is having this brilliant terracottas and stoneware from Chandraketuga when it was only excavated by ASI in 1968. Why the 1968 date is important? 1970, the UN came up with an international convention, the Convention of Prevention of Theft and Cultural Property, which says that anything after 1970 cannot be exported. That means whatever you're seeing in the market that Chandraketugar is actually stolen. We have not taken much steps. And what does the trade do when they get these kind of artifacts, even if they are intact, to, to send them out of India and to aid in shipping and clandestinely shipping out? They voluntarily break the murtis into multiple parts, and they have restorers who basically stitch it together. This is another Varaha that has been stitched back, and you can see the vandalism that these vandals have done to basically put it back together. And this is the Sun Temple in Umri. And here again, you see this trophy hunting. This is another fashion where they cut off the heads of the murtis and they are displayed like this for sale in Europe. In places like Thailand, they've already put out these boards. In India, have we have not done that? Hopefully, we have to do that. So, what do we have to save all our gods? I've just put this symbolically our old-fashioned Natraj lock for our Natraj against a $1 million sale. So, what is the first objective? The first objective we should do is we do not recognize we have a problem. We've been shouting from the rooftop saying we have a big problem, but even in Parliament, there has been always no, there's only two, three gone per year. It's not a big problem. And I show you this headline that appeared in the papers in 1986. And this was a headline that happened even after a very crucial raid, which I'll talk about in a while. And these are numbers are not what I am going to show. These are from the CAG report of 2013. And here you see in the CAG report, this very small reference from 1976 to 2000, India got back 19 artifacts. And from 2000 onwards till 2012, when this report was published, zero. That means India's performance during this period has been overall 19 murtis. And that's what makes this 157 number very, very important. And it's not 157. The US offered, if I'm right, 248. And even in those 248, it doesn't include a lot more high ticket items that we had worked on and given. So I believe that this 157, adding to it, after this, I'll show you cases, the number was 53. So 53 plus 157 post 2013. I'm happy to confidently tell you and show you that about 95% of whatever has come back from the work done by me and my team. And I'm very, very happy that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And this 2000 to 2012 is very significant because this was a time when Peter Watson, a BBC journalist, put out this book and an expose, which basically covered one chapter on India about a smuggler called Vaman Gia, who actually shipped out more than 10,000 works of Indian art from 1970s onwards. The Sotheby's reps used to come to India. They used to go on recce trips. They used to pick and choose the best of Indian art that would be sellable in London, and they used to take it to Switzerland. Sotheby's had established five companies with Raman Gia in Switzerland. They used to come out, and I'll show you an example of one such. This was a 5-ton Varaha sculpture. They actually tied a chain to its leg, fixed it to a truck, and pulled it, breaking the legs. It is currently in Switzerland. In fact, we last year we put out this lookout notice via our friends in the US saying this has to come back. Uh, Sotheby's closed down their office in London. They sacked their two India heads who are there. The police raided Vamangia's farmhouse in Delhi. They yielded about 830 antiquities buried. 400 were antiquities, 438 something were fakes. Obviously, they showed the fakes, got the export license, shipped out the originals. Despite all this, Vamangia was acquitted in 2013 for want of evidence. And in the meantime, objects started coming back, but when they came back, they were not connected to any theft. To such an extent, this dancing Natesa from Rajasthan, Baroli, was handed over to the Indian High Commission in 2005, but it was not transmitted to India. We saw it by chance in 2018, and finally in 2019 or 2020, and this Natesa came back. A lot of such cases are there. I'm just going to give you random samples wherein India was relying on photo ops but did not follow up. There was this case of the London Nataraja and the Sivapuram Nataraja. These are two different Natarajas. This is the Patur Nataraja, which was actually stopped in London. We fought a case, Indian government fought a famous case and brought it back. Everybody applauded, very good. But what we didn't follow up was we didn't really go after the actual buyer. The actual buyer was a company in Canada called the Bumper Development Corporation. And in 2013, Bumper Development Corporation donated more than 80 Indian artifacts, including precious Hindu murtis, to the Glenbow Museum. None of them had any documentation. The Nataraja came back in 1985. From 1985 to 2013, India never took anything against the Bumper Development Corporation. In fact, they also tried to sell a lot of things in the market without any supporting, which could not come through. So we've been relying similarly the Sivapuram Nataraja. This Nataraja came back. It was a very big case. We didn't want to fight it in court because that time the man who bought it was the richest man in the world. Now, what do? We sign an out of court settlement, which basically asks him to return this Nataraja of keeping it in a US museum for 10 years. No compensation. He bought it for $1 million in 1971. But the untold story is in this book. There was a Somaskanda. Total of six bronzes were smuggled out. He returned only the Nataraja. He got a guarantee from the Indian government for a period of 1 year. He can buy any Indian art. We will not ask any questions. This was not made public. In this 1 year moratorium period, he actually accessioned a lot of this stuff, including this Somaskanda, which he proudly exhibits even today as from Sivapuram. So this is in the Norton Simon Museum with the provenance plate of Sivapuram. And not only that, in most likelihood, he had all the other bronzes. Well, what is interesting in Sivapuram was that the the robber, who was a Tapati, made fakes and sold the originals. And the fakes were made in 1957. So at that time itself, if we had woken up and started checking for fakes, we could have found this. 2 years ago, we found this very interesting story. This bronze of the Vaishnavites and Tirumangai Alvar, we tracked it to a Oxford Museum in Ashmolean. And the temple said, no, no, we also have the bronze. We went and proved that this bronze was a fake. The blue background one is a fake. The original was in London. And they agreed to return it back. Like this, we have spotted many, many fakes in our temples. If you have more access, we will do it. There was another return in the 1980s, which is the case that I'm mentioning about in 1986. So at that point of time, in 1986, this Nataraja came back from the Kimball Museum. It was headline news in India today. But what is interesting is, along with this, Indian police raided the gallery called the Emerald Gallery in London. They seized 240 idols in the gallery. They seized 240. They went to the house of the dealer. They raised 41. So a total of 241 idols were seized in London in 1986. But then nobody knows what happened to this 281. Not one of them came back. This case file is missing in Scotland Yard. This case file is missing in India. So there's been a lot of cover-ups that has happened in the past. I'm just going to go through international regulation. We just have a lot of cases. This is a report that India and Italy filed in 1973, and you can actually see by state-wise they maintained records of thefts, and you can actually see by state they had data, but suddenly after 1980s this data reporting has stopped. So nobody knows the extent of the loot, and even then it was quite significant. And we know reported thefts form a very, very minuscule percentage of the actual theft. This was the reported theft. You can actually see they had theft and burglary, everything. So all this was there. We signed the UN Convention. This is the convention I talked to you about in 1970. Do not sign the UNRWA Convention, and so a lot of things are happening. The Antiquities Act is blamed. We'll come to that in the Q&A. I'm just going to show some experts. So a lot of our own sold experts have worked to sell sculptures, including this person who is a British Thai passport holder. And he passed away last year. His daughter is returning 200 Cambodian statues to the government of Cambodia. She's been just named day before yesterday in the Pandora's Papers by the International Criminal Court of Justice, CJI. Now, what is interesting is this is his apartment when he was in Bangkok in CHOLS Komaskanda. He had was originally a Indian art collector, and we have shown proof that he has almost 30 Indian murtis with him. But so far, the Indian government has not acted on these. A lot of our scholars have been writing, and say, for example, this is a catalog that was written, and you can actually see the name of a Lotus awardee there. I don't want to call the award by its original name. A lot of our people have actually aided and amended. This is another scholar who aided the purchase. I've just blanked him out because he's living in India. So a lot of our scholars have worked in these. And this is a very interesting piece. This is an object, a signet ring that was up for sale in Europe. And you can actually see the provenance. It says Assistant Epigraphist of the Archaeological Survey of India. And these are the kind of people who are supposed to protect and preserve these artifacts who are engaged in the robbing. We also worked on this case. I'll speak about it in more detail. This was a Brahma Brahmini from Gujarat, the Prime Minister's home state, that we helped crack along with Dr. Kirit Manpuli. We did the matching. The ASA sent an expert, flew an expert to London, and this expert gave a report that these two idols are not the same. And you know what the reasons he gave for that? He said in the original image is very dirty. In the image I'm seeing in London is very clean. That's a 70-year-old photograph. And he says the Brahma's face is very clean. And more importantly, he says in the Brahma's right hand, in the original photo, the finger is intact. But in the image I'm seeing in London, the finger is broken. The converse is true, I agree. But this one, when they were transporting it, it broke off. Based on this, the government actually handed over the sculpture back to the dealer. We went and raised hell. We showed them the proof that it is the same, and these are the kind of work that we do. And we put an ultimatum, and we get this nice mail 3 days later saying they appoint another committee to review. And this finally, this Brahma came back. So not only are our murtis at risk, we have these chariots. This is a temple chariot that was up for sale for 95 lakhs in Bombay. It was not even exported. It was up for, and they fixed an expert to give it a 90-year-old tag. Wood cannot be dated. Similarly, our temple jewels are coming up for sale. There are a lot of intermediaries. So I told you about Fatty Nation. So this is the famous Nataraja from Sri Purandan that came back. We will see that success story in a while. So what happened was you can actually see the coloration is actually on the left. The brownish color is when it was stolen from the temple. It went to London. The world-renowned so-called restorer Neil Perry Smith. Now he's been arrested, extradited to America, and is serving time there 3 months ago, gave it a greenish patina by giving using it acids and chemicals, basically because collectors wanted it to look as though it is a underground buried object, because they felt if it's from a temple somebody will come looking for it, but they were fooled. So similarly, a lot of these objects the restorers were doing, and this is another case. You can actually see it is covered with sand and encrustations, and you see how the restorer has restored it, and this was again seized in the US. Can this be solved at origin? It's going to be tough. So these are objects that are in their current state. A lot of them we see a lot of these murtis. I'm just going to randomly go through. India has such a rich heritage everywhere. So it's going to be very, very difficult unless people come out and record thefts. Our biggest problem is recording thefts, and this is actually in Karnataka. So what we're trying to say is when the buying stops, the looting will stop. And this is a classic example. And since we are talking in Karnataka, I want to show you this example. This was another dancing damsel from the ceiling that we are trying to work with the Denver Art Museum. This is from Rajasthan. We proved it with, it was a documented antiquity, and this is our proof. So this is how we work. And this proof was given to them almost 13 years ago. We are still fighting for it return because India believes in soft diplomacy. Unlike Cambodia and Italy, we don't sue these museums in court. But despite all this wonderful evidence, they're holding back. But what it does, and this is from Tikeri in Karnataka, this beautiful temple, when I went there, it was covered by cobwebs and it was targeted by thieves, and they actually broke in. This steel grill that you see was fixed later, and this theft was recorded in 2014. And this is what happened. You can actually see what they have done. So these are all the damsels that were. Six of them have been robbed. We are still looking for it in the global market. So this is what we do. So that's a sad story. I'll just show you the success story. Post 2012, what's happened? We work on restitution, build awareness, deterrent, we influence policy, and we work capacity. We, as you said, these are all some of the slides that we do: capacity building, raise awareness. We work on archive. We encourage people to report thefts, report fines. We, whenever you see an artifact that is coming for sale, we ask them to send us the catalogs. Thus, we build a knowledge database and we data mine the archive. For example, this is the only photograph that is available in a 1914 book. And from this 1914 book, we trace this to a museum in Singapore. By reaching out in social media, we managed to find it. We are still working on it. We also leverage social media, and this is an interesting case of a Jain Murti. When it was stolen by robbers, we told them publish if it's photographed. The importance of photographing and keeping a catalog. The moment it was photographed, the robbers, and it was published in newspapers, the robbers threw it off in the forest because they know unless it is if it is photographed, it becomes unsellable in the international market. So this is a test for your audience. I'll take another 10 minutes. Is it okay, sir?
Yeah, sure, Vijay.
Okay. So this is basically we are coming into the real part of it. The photograph that you see has a very important clue. Let's see if anybody can find it. I'll just go through and see if you can recognize it. This is my book. I'm not pitching for my book. I just wanted to introduce the villain of my book, Subhash Kapoor. And why I show this photograph is behind him are two bronzes. This Nataraja and Uma from the temple in Sutamali were robbed and they have been hidden by his sister in New York. When he was arrested in Stuttgart airport in via Interpol Red Corner notice in September of 2011, he wrote a handwritten note while in Interpol custody to his manager, and they've hidden these two bronzes along with Nana Nataraja and Parvati, totaling $13.5 million in 2011. We've not been able to find them so far. So it is a real and present danger. We call him the Janus figure because he knew from where it were looted. This was a targeted looting. And this is another case of a Jain Murti that we tracked. This is basically the money trail. It was in London. This is Kapoor's father. So in fact, the wheels of law were so slow. Kapoor's father was charged with robbing a Vishnu statue in 1972, but 1971. But what happened was, by the time the case came up for hearing in 1993, after 22 years, the family has actually emigrated out of India. So this seems to be the family business for the family. So I'm going to show you some pretty disturbing visuals. This Nataraja Murti was stolen from a temple. The robbers actually sawed off his left hand, melted it, thinking it was made of gold. Now, what people don't realize, and this is something that I wanted to tell it on this show, in the sense that we call them Panchaloga, for the Jain and Buddhists call them Ashtadhatu, eighth metal. All of them are basically bronze. The gold and silver content is only ceremonial, sastra. So they put 0.003%, it cannot be extracted. So when the robbers realized there was no gold, they actually hit the chemist, the jeweler. The jeweler died in 2005. So this was a murder case. But what happened after that? This Nataraja appeared with his hand intact in Subhash Kapoor's gallery in 2007. Now, what happened in between? We can now tell you. The restorer in London basically created a new hand, and surprise, surprise, a month before Kapoor was arrested, this Nataraja made a miraculous re-entry back into Chennai and was handed over by one of Kapoor's suppliers quietly to close the case. So without a visa or passport, with a cut hand, this Nataraja went via Nepal, Hong Kong, London, got a hand to New York, and then entered India and is back in the temple now. Now, what happened to this supplier? We exposed him. He was arrested in 2016, and this was the raids that happened in his house and others through him. How do we crack these cases? We work with law enforcement. We work robber photos. So I remember I told you these robbers are coming as decade trips. They go with our scholars. Saw these reps used to come pick and choose objects. Thanks to social media, they don't have to do that. Now robbers are sending like prospective bride photos to bridegrooms. These guys are sending. So these two Dwarapalakas, basically there's a dhoti behind. You can actually see a lungi behind this. And people are bidding on this live and then the transfer happens. We work with law enforcement in the US to crack these. And I'll just show you a few examples. This is a Vidachalam Ardhanari that came back in 2014. So I knew this object. This was a robber photo. It was bought by the art gallery in New South Wales for about $780,000. The robbers had kept a fake. So this is a fake that was kept in the temple. And once we exposed it, it was a documented activity. We had photos in a book and also from the French Institute. This is what happened. And this Murthy came back and was handed over by Prime Minister to Prime Minister Modi by Tony Abbott, the Australian Premier, in 2014. And this started a wave of restitutions. So after this, Australia always used to stonewall our request. So they started giving us more and more and more information, and we started exposing more and more. Even 3 months ago, Australia finally said, "Don't." They bring back everything to you, take back. So far, they have returned more than $14 million worth of stuff to India, and we are still pushing for more. And what is interesting is all these movies that came back are the work. We should help take. We took help from Michaela Boland, a media person in Australia, and Jason Felch in America. And based on this, we are also working for latest round of restitutions. This Jnana Sambandhar from Sirgali is going to come, and this we found it in a book published by Prime Minister Modi and Pankaj Mitran. So all these are going to come, and this is where the clue that I told you. This was from Chandavaram, a Buddhist site. The robbers actually stole from an archaeological site not once but three times in 6 months. They broke a part of it and then they shipped it off with all these fake provenances. We got it back, and what is interesting is this. So you can actually see this object is already photographed there, the importance of documentation. After this object came back, we realized it was from Chandavaram, and we got a lot more, and we are now tracking Doris Weiner, who's been charged now in the US. His daughter, Nancy Weiner, is charged. This, she sold it by Christie's. We can't find. We are still waiting for it to come back. This artifact is in the Louvre, Abu Dhabi, waiting for it to come back. A lot of these motifs are going to come back. These are the match pair that the sister hid. This is the girlfriend in Singapore who lodged a complaint against Kapoor. This is the French Institute old archive photos that we used to match. And this is how we matched for the Nataraja. So this was the old archival photo. After it's robbed, the empty shrine, the priest praying there, the robber photo. And then when he came back, we actually put it on YouTube. And when this Nataraja came back, he went back to exactly from the place from where he was stolen. This was how the temple was renovated by the locals to take care of it. And then we basically went after a lot of stuff. And this is a Buddha that we are actually listed to come back, but sadly, this is not coming from the US in this round. But what is interesting for this Buddha, he was in a temple in South India, taken to New York, given by Kapoor to Singapore Museum for Nalanda Way. And this Nalanda Way exhibition was opened by then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. So when this Buddha went back to America, it price doubled. So he was selling it for $1 million. After this opened by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, then Prime Minister, it became 2.2 million. So a lot of this are happening. We are following up. These Buddhas are going to come back. This is the Uma that came back from Singapore. Again, this was another interesting case. This Ganesha we managed to track to a small blemish in the trunk thanks to archival photos, and this was handed over to Prime Minister Modi when he went in to the US in 2016. And as part of our investigation, we found the Toledo Museum had received gifts from Subhash Kapoor in the same year. They bought this Ganesha from him of terracotta and Gupta objects. And what you're seeing, all these that you see on the side are coming back. This is a terracotta rattle that is part of this 157. So based on those investigations, these are coming back. Not only that, a lot more objects are coming back. And I'm just going to take a last few minutes. How big was the loot? This is Subhash Kapoor's storage locations. And what you're seeing is all the seized objects. And we are talking about hundreds, not hundreds, but thousands of artifacts. This is an anthropomorphic seal from the Gangetic Plain and an Indus seal. And we are not, and these are the ages. This is the third millennium BC seal from Mohenjo-daro. And in fact, you're actually seeing not one, these are all that. So, how much was the loot? His loot in total, as was in the introduction, was 2,602 objects at $107 million, almost 900 crores. There is one dealer just is carrying stock from a storage warehouse unearthed so far. He was in business for 35 years, and this was his celebration. Based on this investigation, we worked with Homeland Security. We also did the raids in Asia Week, and this magnificent object was seized thanks to robber photos. We worked on the robber photos. We managed to crack it, and this Murthy is coming back with Prime Minister Modi, along with all these terracottas that are, again we tracked it to the Honolulu Museum. A lot of these are work in progress. So what you're seeing is something that's going to come. I end with this major restitution. In 2017, we got a WhatsApp call from a source who said, "Look, I have an elderly priest who has this photograph. Can you help find it?" So we went and searched it. We found it in the US. We managed to work with the Homeland Security and the District Attorney's Office. Matthew Bogdano's office. We gave him the proofs. So we basically matched everything. And based on this, there you see, this is the object that is coming back with Prime Minister Modi, that is the 157. Along with it, it's not just Tamil Nadu, this is a Chamunda from Orissa that's going to come back. This Vishnu is coming back. So a lot of it we worked are going to come back. We also worked on a very important Nalanda Buddha that was stolen in 1961. So all these objects have come back, and final word is that we have so much valuation that's put on all these murtis. What happens when they come home? I want to end with this slide. This Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita back to Anandamangalam from where they were stolen in 1978. You will see more such. This is our goal. We want murtis to go back to the original abodes. Hopefully, we will do more. More of these will come back. I can promise you that this is just the start. We help. We require help from you to strengthen the laws. We can take it up in the Q&A. We want to bring more of our gods home. And with that, I end this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you for patiently listening to it. Hope I didn't take too long. Is it okay?
Gopiji, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Santoshi. Santosh, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes. Uh, Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Vijay. I mean, it is truly remarkable to see that this is the scale at which the looting is happening in India. But yeah, as we're looking at the slide, I mean, you said that the numbers which you're speaking was hundreds, hundreds, hundreds. But in one of the article which we came across, they were mentioning that even in state of Tamil Nadu, there were looting of, I mean, the registered, what they say, stolen idols come up to a figure of only 1,000 or 1,500.
It's an
Is it the
interesting
number so?
point.
Uh-huh.
What happened was in 2018, there was a high court case, and the HRNC came up with an affidavit. They said they have lost 1,408 sculptures, of which about 800 stone and 400 or 600 bronze murtis. But after that, they have not given a list. Till date, we work with ASI, we work with other states, we work with Interpol, Europol, Homeland Security, Metropolitan Police. In fact, I can show you later some of the success videos of the successful hand restitutions. Till date, the HRNC has not even made an approach. In fact, we have met at least 7 of the commissioners and said, we are doing this work pro bono, work with us. Till date, they have not given us any list or even a single photograph to say, help us get this back. And same is true for Karnataka as well. Karnataka launched the idle wing 2 years ago. We got their number, sent them a WhatsApp, we sent them an email offering our services. Never heard back from them.
That's right. And whenever, even with the recent announcement of Prime Minister Modi were coming back, he brought with him back 157 idols. That was the news. And in some articles, they were presenting in such a way that US authorities have presented it or gifted it to the Indian authorities. How much is it a
People,
reality that they give? Yeah.
so first of all, restitution is the right word. They are not gifted. Let me explain what restitution means. As per the UN Statute 1970, if we can prove that object was stolen after 1970, the source nation, that means we are term source nation, like as though we are some mine or something. But anyway, the market nation or whoever has it has 30 days to refute our claim. So if we can prove conclusively that it's stolen after 1970 with an FIR, with a photograph, in situ, eyewitness evidence, and all that, the other country has 30 days to refute our claim. Otherwise, the artifact is forfeit to India. You can gift something that you own. So common law basically states a thief cannot transfer good title. If you have bought stolen property, it is remains a stolen property. Now this 1970 is again misused by the collectors. In fact, I can show you Subhash Kapoor manufactured provenances showing they were bought in India 1968, which is a misnomer. The 1970 UN statute is not some Lakshman Rekha which miraculously washes a stolen object. It just means pre 1970 we have to go to court. We have to go challenge it, stake our claim in court. If it's after 1970, you just invoke the statute. If you invoke the statute, you have 30 days. They have to prove that they are legitimate owner, or they have to refute my claim saying I have faked or forged the proof. If they cannot refute my claim, it is forfeit to India. So either Angela Merkel, Tony Abbott, Biden, or Bush, they are not doing us a great favor by giving something back. These objects were forfeit to India. It is actually they are property of the temples. In fact, the London court in the Patur Nataraja case has said clearly that as long as even a single brick or stone of a Hindu temple continues to remain, the temple can sue and sue in its own name, can be restituted back to worship. And in fact, for that case, the Uma sued for her husband. So it's the temple's right that is supreme, and he got a superior claim than even the government. The government cannot decide to say, okay, you can have it. This is property of the temple. And that is actually, again, it's not that the British courts are supreme, but at least in legal parlance, they're considered to be the high standard. The British courts have maintained that the claim, superior claim of a Hindu temple, even if it was ruined, is paramount.
If I can talk about your book, on the Idol Thief, I mean, it was a fantastic, thrilling book, and even the first chapter itself goes into so many details on how closely the priests and all the worshippers of the temple are associated with both the deity making and all. Now, the rest of the book was equally thrilling. But can we expect more of such work from you? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you must be having more of your exciting journey to share with us.
Yes, in fact, I'm currently working on a prequel to the book, which will be more of a sob story. I'm taking 12 iconic cases where India did not follow up. So it's tentatively titled NRI Gods, hoping that it will spur the government to reopen those cases. So that's
Oh,
in the pipeline. I'm also working on a sequel because the book was written in 2016, published in 2018. A lot has happened after that. We're also working on a few more surprises on the book. In the coming weeks and months, you will hear about it. So I'm sure we will make sure that the cost is amplified. I think what is important is for people to understand that if so many are coming back, the difficult questions have to be asked to the custodians. How did you let them go?
sorry. I have one last question from my end. What is your message to, I mean, most of the idol and deities which are stolen are from Hindu communities and the Buddhists? What is the message to the community? How can they contribute towards your cause and help them bring them back?
See, I think we've actually tracked, so I don't want to look at it from a colored lens. We've got Jain Murtis, we've got back Buddhist icons, we've even shown Indus icons. We have looked at a Nizam standard that's coming back, an Ivory Christ. For me, it's all part of the idol mafia basically values everything. So what I would request people to do was whoever's watching the show, take a break for 7 days, just chill, because usually what happens, people feel agitated, they want to contribute, they write, and then after a few weeks they forget. So I go the reverse. If after a week they still remember this fat man stuff, they can reach out to us and we will let them know how they can be volunteer. But you have to be clear that we are working against very, very powerful people. So we have to be careful who we take on board. But for a entry level volunteer, the first thing that I will request, I think three things we request our people to do. The first thing I've already made the request, please go to temples. I think that's the first thing that you can do. Make sure there is footfall. Don't allow your Kuladevatas and Kuladevams to be ruined in this state. The second thing is, please, if you can't take photographs, tell the custodians or the priests to take photographs and keep. Because wherever we have had a photograph, we've been 100% successful in getting them back. Wherever we have not been successful is because the theft has not been reported, nor have we been got a photograph. Lastly, if you are traveling outside India, okay, Corona has cut down our travel, but in case you are traveling outside India, if you're working outside India, if you see an Indian artifact for sale or Indian artifact that is coming up in a museum, don't put yourself at risk. If they allow you to photograph, take a photograph. Take one without you, take one with you. Send us the one without you. If it is a risky one, if you're not, just send us a note saying that so and so shop in Paris and Amsterdam, we think it is selling Indian artifact. We will put our volunteers on it and we will handle it. I just want to reiterate that we started this 17 years ago. I'm very, very happy that the core team that joined me 17 years ago is still here. I'm just the face of the project. There's a whole team behind me. I salute their dedication. And we've been staying true to our cause, which was that we will not take any money. We will not apply for any awards or rewards. And so far, it's been 17 years. We have stuck to that. So anybody wants to send us money, Please go spend it on your own temples, go spend it on your own learning. For us, we don't want your money. If you want to volunteer, there are ways where you can help become, like, you can scan documents for us. You can look, buy, purchase catalogs and scan it over for us. So that is the only request, but that can come at a later time. For 1 week, let me see if I can haunt your dreams. If I still haunt, please come over and teach me.
Thank you, Gigi. I'm sure the audience have heard you, and it was really inspiring to listen to your talk. Thank you. Over to you, Gopi.
Thank you, Vijayji. Vijayji, do you have any data on what is the type of artifacts uh, that is gone? I mean, like, is it terracotta or like wooden or the panchalohas or the stone? Which one is the most like in the international market? Which one they are looking for? Any data?
So, so the first thing, as I told you, this art market functions in a very unregulated way. So nobody has data. So I think anything of value is now being smuggled out, and for us, the gods are priceless. So I don't want to put a price tag to it. But again, I think we we estimate about 1,000 major works of art being smuggled out of India every year, and that makes 10,000 a decade. Major work. A lot of these excavation sites are being hit, which is actually more worse than the big ones. Because, for example, my own history books, I didn't learn much from them. I learned more from reading fiction and historic fiction. Like, for example, I was inspired by reading Kalki's Ponniyin Selvan, that is going to come out as a movie by Maniratnam. It's on the great Rajaraja Chola. Now, I, as a Tamil, knew Rajaraja Chola. I read about the book, but how many North Indians would know about Rajaraja? Similarly, how many know about the Shunga dynasty? We all talk about Chandraketuga. Second century BC, they made these brilliant terracotta stone in Orissa, West Bengal. No, none of us know it. The problem with illicit digs, what is happening is it loses context. So when somebody is illicitly digging, like a treasure hunter, he takes what is sellable in the international market, maybe a coin, maybe a figurine, but he'll throw away the pottery shard, archaeologically significant objects, at what depth he got it, what else was there, the strata. So what happens is an archaeologically significant object that can give more details about an advanced civilization that was there is being reduced to being a showpiece curio. So it becomes a doll. So I think that is more damage than what we are losing from major temples. So that, I think, is the biggest problem that we have. But then the trade, as I told you, they're going after temple chariots, wooden artifacts, temple jewelry. They're going after hero stones. They're going after sati stones. You've got collectors who are specializing in just nandis. So there was a dealer who was arrested. They found 120 nandis in his house. So basically, he specializes like stamp collectors. These guys are specializing in our ways of murti. So I think we have to be careful. So
For sure, we don't want the murtis to go out, but the reason I asked the question is we want to understand the mindset, the buyer purchaser's mindset. I mean, what they're really interested in. So is it like
So originally they were looking at as art collectors. They looked at it as art, but what we say is they were never meant to be art. Our creators never wanted them to be art objects. They were spiritual objects. But of late, what we see, as I said, three things. One, money laundering. So after the Panama Papers, people realized that if you keep $1 million in the bank, somewhere it leaks. Instead, you put money in art, keep it in a secret locker in a free port. You can actually transfer from one room to another. So money laundering. Then there is tax evasion. So what happens if you're a rich collector in the US or in Australia? You buy an artifact for 10,000 pounds. After 10 years, you got a friendly valuer to value it at 100,000 or 500,000 pounds. You donate it for a museum. The museum gets it free, so they keep quiet. But then what they don't realize is taxpayer money goes into giving this rich buyer tax incentives we can offset against this company. So there is a lot of scam that happens on that. So they're just using this as a commodity. So one, I think, is a colonial mindset. We are currently tracking, hopefully you will see it in the news in the coming weeks and months, a very significant murti that was found in a farm, like a garden, the outside a major European in a major European country. So one of our friends was walking by and they found this moss covered murti just out in the open for like 15, 20 years. So sadly, yes, the colonial mindset is there, and I think they want to take these as trophies, signifying their colonial conquest of those nations. Because this is common in Egypt, it's common in India, it's common in Cambodia, it's common in Italy. So I think it's more to do with you owning a piece of history illegally.
So, okay. The other question which commonly asked is some of the Indian high-profile politically Italian connections. So, I mean, do you know how much they transferred out of India? I mean, like, any idea how they
See,
transferred?
yeah, I get keeping asked these questions. I think our job is basically to track movies and bring it back and work with law enforcement in combating the crime. The next job in investigating it is with law enforcement, and we will work closely as and when we get information. We are not going to be scared of anybody. We have exposed much high-profile leaders. We have exposed police officers involved in this crime who are currently serving time. So we are not somebody who will shy away from it, but I think that is seriously the job of enforcement. For us, we are a small team of volunteers that have very good day jobs. In our spare time, we are doing this. I think we work in forming one of the clogs in the wheel, wherein we show our expertise basically in identifying motives and building an archive and leading a citizen sourced archive and citizen led initiative. So I think we would like to remain that way and not get into political tangles. But yes, of course, if anybody is involved and we come to know, it will be informed to the authorities. And now how they proceed with it is sadly left with them. We are not here to police the police force.
Okay. And regarding Tirumala, you might have heard about the pink diamond that one of the priests, main priest, was mentioning about. It's been stolen from the temple and it's been sent to somewhere else. Is that information true, or like, are we? Is it just a allegation?
As I said, we work on hard facts. So if somebody has proof or they want to work on it, they can reach out to us. Of late, we're
Okay.
getting a lot of such stuff. Even people are claiming to do that, they're claiming something that was taken out of India 1920s. They're claiming it was taken recently and all that. People don't realize that as and when we amplify these false messages, the real effort gets watered down. I think it is no easy joke. Again, I went to mention some of the custodians say all of that has come back. The 53 that have come back from 2013 and 157, they say voluntarily returned by the museum. None of these were voluntarily returned. There was a big battle that goes behind it. Sometimes it's taken like 2, 3 years of background work. Every murti we match, I just did a calculation. We spent about close to 800 to 1,000 hours going through archives to find a match. So these kind of work that we do is required to find a small one. So it's not a childish game to throw allegations which water down. If there is proof, bring out the proof. It's very easy. An FIR and the in situ photograph. If you don't know where it is, we can find out where it is because we have, thankfully, every museum we are monitoring, every auction we are monitoring, every art fair we are monitoring. But as I said, most of the time when we go and ask for details, it's only hearsay. People just say, "Oh, this murti is there in Antwerp. It's from us." I know it's from us, but where is the proof? From where it was stolen? From which temple? So my request is, we have successfully. I've shown you how we have solved cases from 1961, 1971, 1978. No amount of passage of time converts a stolen object into a fair object. So if you know of a case where something was stolen, reach out to us, but reach out to us with hard data, at least an FIR or before Chori Hui Murtika photo. If you have any of these two, we can start a file as and when it comes up. Sometimes it comes up immediately, sometimes it takes a decade, but we will keep looking out for it.
And Vijayji, there is one. You and your team, right? How many artifacts until this point has been identified and brought back to India?
This is the number that it's very difficult to mention because we're working on a lot of live cases. But as I said, I promised to reach three figures by end of this year. I think we have reached that already.
Mhm.
We are going to see at least this number going up. I would say a minimum of three times by the end of next year. So we are
Um,
talking about 600. If we get the support necessary from the states, and the center, we can do more. When I say support, it is coming, but if we get more support, like what we're looking for, I think what we need is a national art squad, like what Italy has done, and also very strict heritage laws. Right now, we don't even have a specific IPC section for heritage crime. We only have housebreaking theft, Section 380C. So I think what we need to do is strengthen the laws. On one side, you have somebody making crores of rupees selling murtis. If he's caught, he gets a 3,000 rupee fine. So that's a potent combination for disaster.
Wow. Wow. That is anybody can, I mean, like, especially the anti dharmic people, they can easily take the risk of that. 3,000
In
bucks
fact,
just
in
to
Tamil
not.
Nadu, this amendment state they bought an amendment in 1993 which halves for temple. So in Tamil Nadu, IPC section 380 is housebreaking theft. It says maximum penalty 7.5 years, 7 years. But in Tamil Nadu, section 380 has been amended. If you rob from a temple, it's 3.5 years. If you rob from a house, it's 7 years. So in Tamil Nadu, you rob a temple, if you get half the penalty for robbing a house.
Uh-huh. And Vijayji, there's one question. We bring back all the gods, right? I mean, we bring back the gods. What if some of the gods have been, when they're transporting, I mean, from India to somewhere else, some of the, you mentioned some of them have been deliberately broken, or like they're taken outside and I mean, reattached and brought it back. When you're bringing back, so Agam, what is the Agama says, Vijay, about this?
So it's
It
very
says,
simple. They call it binam. So binam basically means breakage. The Agamas clearly prescribed that. In fact, I quote Acharya Dandin, who was a court poet in Mahendra Pallava's court in 7th century. He says the Pallava sculptors did such a brilliant job in repairing the hand of the Shore temple. The Shore temple is actually a composite temple of three temples, two Shiva temples buttressing a existing Vishnu temple, the Kshatriya Simeshwara, Raja Simeshwara with a Salasaina Perumal. So if you remember the Shore temple, there is a Vishnu shrine in between, and the right hand of the Vishnu was broken. In the Pallava time, that's 1,350 years ago, the Pallava sculptors repaired his hand. And Acharya Dandin says, magnificently, perfectly repaired. I'm sitting in front of the Lord, I can't see the break. So what the Agamas mention is minor limbs. When they say minor limbs, finger, hand, elbow, ear, nose, anything can be repaired for stone. It's only major limbs if they're broken. That means the neck has been chopped or the body torso has been completely broken. They are called binam. They're not fit for worship. In those cases, there is already a regulation that they should be kept in the temple premises and not discarded. Agama said discard, but nowadays, because of that, people are robbing temples and selling them out. So I think in states like Tamil Nadu, there is a ban against throwing them out. In terms of metal images, they can always be repaired. In fact, the Agamas clearly say that you can even remelt it and recast it. It's just that you'll have to bring them back to worship after doing the necessary rituals. I hope that answers your question.
thank you, Vijayji. And Tejas, any questions from you online?
Yeah. Vijay ji, I had one question. Yeah, like now we know that so many temples are being like still this is going on. So what do you think with the present in the sense like what present facilities we have in the sense like does Indian customs still cooperate and check or have some
Okay,
laws in place?
I get yours. So that is the Indian Customs Act 1964. What it does is basically you have to get a non-antiquity certificate. It's very easy for you to take a murti, make a replica, show the
Oh,
replica, get a half-fast tag, and then a hard tag on the murti. Then it's fit for export for 6 months. What we are campaigning is you don't give it back to the exporter, keep it in bonded storage. So if you're bringing it for export, the
okay.
ASA officer is inspecting it. The problem now is they go home, remove the tag, put it on the original, give it a fresh paint. The custom
Mm,
officer inspects it, smells the paint, they export it out. The second thing is customs, for example, when they catch contraband or bullion, they are
correct.
incentivized. But for searching murtis, there is no incentive. There is no finder's fee. So again, these are two things that we need to do. Thirdly, the temples. For example, in my home state, there are 43,000 temples. Not even 10% of them have annual incomes of more than 10,000 rupees. All that is required is each village or each the civil society or as part of that, all we need is a solar panel, a motion control CCTV camera, a safe strong room, and a security guard. So if we can do that like a temple protection force, retired ex-servicemen always there. That is what is required. But sadly, that is not done. Even if that's not done, at least take a photograph and keep it, which is probably sign. India signed the UN Convention. It clearly says three things. One, you'll have to maintain an archive of your treasures. You'll have to maintain a loss register. You will have to disseminate knowledge about your treasures. All three India has not done. So I think if we at least get them to create a proper archive, photograph and keep. And this was again promised in 1986, but nothing has been done. So if you document an artifact, provided you police the international market, no point in just photographing and keeping it. You'll have to keep a watch on what is happening. Italy is doing it. So just to give you why I keep saying Italy is Italy and India campaigned the UN to come up with this UN statuette. Italy created this Carabinieri Art Squad under the Ministry of Defense, taking the best of their police force. And in this period of between 1970 and 2000, when India brought back 19, Italy brought back a lakh and 10,000 objects. So that's the difference between ours, which is a punishment posting, and Italy, where there's a privilege posting.
I
Thank,
have a
thank you.
question. I have a question, Vijay. Can I? Can I go ahead?
Yes, yes, sir.
Please.
This is just purely for academic purpose. In the international market, which dynasty idols are most wanted?
Sir, for the interest of it, I will reply to you on a private chat. I don't want to put a price tag on the gods. I usually
Okay.
skip this question because then it can be misconstrued as putting an X mark or a target on our murtis. But yes,
Right.
some of our highlights, if they consider the high water mark of Indian art, are highly targeted. But I would not want to comment on it right now because then it can be construed as me putting ransom on our gods.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Vijay ji, also do you think like any bill on this antiques antiques and this theft which is happening will help like so that
See,
it will
at the center, what we need is a central art squad. We need
yeah
tougher regulation. They need to stop the stupid amendment to the Antiquities and Art Treasures Act, which has been put forward by the culting lobby cabal. Basically, what they do is earlier in the Antiquities Act, if you have anything over 100 years, you have to register it. Now, what they want to do, you have to go take it to the ASI, registering officer will inspect it. He'll ask you, he'll conduct an inquiry, ask you how you got it. Means you don't go on the road, put a stone in your back of your car and say it's yours. So the officer has to ask you how you got it. Now the collecting lobby cabal says this is becoming very difficult for us for market. Now what it does, once you register it, it becomes unexportable, but you can freely sell it within India, provided that you do it through an authorized dealer. Now, what the collecting lobby wants, they don't want an authorized dealer. He wants everybody to sell it. They don't want the gatekeeper checked by ASI. They want a website where you can just register and sell online. That means all
yeah
the public will go on to private, and this is probably the biggest threat that can come to Indian public art. And this is an ill-advised move. We have already written a lot of articles, written a complaint to the Ministry of Culture not to go ahead with this scheme. That's number two. Number three, what we need at the center is a very strong regulation in IPC. For example, Egypt and China have come up with capital crimes for tomb robbers. Egypt, that civilization is gone. There is no followers of that. China, they have no religion. But then, even for tomb robbers, they have gone up to capital punishment, whereas still we are pottering around with 3,000 rupees in 3 years. So I think that is what is required at the center. These three things, if we do, and I think at some point of time, we have to incentivize people who are finding such buried hoards. Maybe we can give them token rewards. If we, from our study, they are getting weight. Metal icons, they're getting 1,000 to 5,000 rupees. The first guy, it changes hands 4 or 5 times before it reaches the $1 million figure. So if the government can come up with a scheme where they can basically give a finder's fee for these guys, maybe honor them in the RD parade of the state or something like that, I think that will put an end to some of these buried hoards being smuggled out via these networks. Lastly, I think what they should do, they should incentivize the force and especially customs, and also to say that this is also important and go after these as well. And this, I think, has been done. I attended the DRA day 2 years ago, and it was put up by the MOS then to say that one of the aspects that the DRA would focus on was to combat antiquities trafficking. But more can be done. There are what we have done right now is pluck the heads, three heads in the US, maybe one head in the UK, but there are several: the body, the pipeline, the hand, the legs, the robbers. Everybody is alive. Most states are treating these returns as photo ops. Only Tamil Nadu has. It's not that no. Most of the returns are coming to Tamil Nadu is because Tamil Nadu is well documented, and we are able to find the matches. It's not that Tamil Nadu is a hotbed of idle thieves. Other states are equally losing. And finally, in Tamil Nadu, whenever the objects are coming back, we are pushing them to file cases. Today,
Okay.
we are receiving objects all over India. None of the states, despite proof like Andhra, Karnataka, Gujarat, wherein we have brought back icons 1 and 2 years ago, have not even filed a single case or gone after the perpetrator. So our request is don't treat them just as returning icons and celebrate the return. You will do justice to this because we catch 100s go missing. So unless you go after the pipeline and dismantle the collecting lobby cabal, the facilitators, the the customs guys, the police who are hand in glove. I say this because I've seen what is happening. There's big money in this. So unless we do this in India and outside, we are bringing being a deterrent. For example, Australian museums have been told now 2 years ago saying, please don't buy any Indian art. We have lost almost $13.5 million. So this is the deterrent, the demand we are working on. I think the supply side, when it goes down, what will happen is a logical economic adjustment will happen.
Thanks, Vijayji. Just last question. Like, suppose if anybody figures out, okay, from this temple, I see that this idol was like it is stolen, or like, what 5 steps do you think he should take from his behalf so
This
that
is
it is genuine, or with, before approaching you?
changes very simple. If somebody robs your wallet on the road
Yeah,
or
yeah.
plucks your chain, what do you do? Why is it that somebody is robbing your temples and you're asking me for procedure? Do the same. Just go to the police station, register the complaint. The police will do that job. The problem is, if somebody robs your pocket on the road, what do you get? You 10 of you get together and be there. Here, somebody is robbing your gods, parading them outside for ticket, and doesn't hurt. I think that is the larger problem. It's not them not knowing what to do. I think if you can just get them to lodge an FIR, we will work on. I think at the PMO's level, what we've also seen, this is something that I forgot to mention. Most of the cases, because the police stations are judged by their ability to close FIRs, most FIRs we have seen, like all the cases that we are reopening from 60s and 70s, within 1 year, the FIRs were closed as untraceable. Some petty thieves were caught. They said these guys are the guys who robbed. They are put behind bars for 3 months. They come out. The idols are said non-traceable. The FIR is closed. So I think what the PMO should do is any FIR that's been lodged, whether untraceable, traced, judgment given or not, just pull out the data and bring out the statistics for them to realize how much you have lost.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Vijayji.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Vijay.
Gopi, you can conclude. Yeah,
I think such a wonderful
Santosh.
session, really amazing. Lot of
Thank
information,
you, Gopi.
and one more thing before concluding, you brought a lot. We have brought a lot of vigrahas back, or gods back. So Pratistapana back into the Devasthanam, Vijayji.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
a video that I have promised to show. I know you're
Yeah.
taking the lead on that. So let me just show that video to end on a happy note.
Yes.
Yes, please.
This is the Kulasekharam Nataraja that was stolen in 1978, recovered from the art gallery of South Australia. Coming back to the temple, it's entering the village, and you actually see the entire village queuing up to receive their lord, and he's being brought in. So with those visuals, I think that
Yes.
answers your question. The God becoming the Lord that He is,
Yes.
entering His abode, filled with His devoted, welcoming Him with pride after 37 years. For us, it is payday. This is where we collect our paychecks. Literally, we feel proud, and this is where we restore India's pride. Thanks again for this great opportunity to talk to like-minded people. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Vijay.
Jai Hind,
Thank you,
Vijay.
Vijay. On behalf of VHS Karnataka, I really thank Shri Vijay Kumar ji for enlightening us on bringing back our God's home, and also immense, I mean, immense information that he put across globally, nationally, and also the temple-wise things. And also maybe one day we'll find out how we can go about mapping or like collecting the data from the temples and photographs and keeping as a database somewhere, and we collect it and keep it, and so that in future any theft that happens, we can map it easily with the technology, with the data science coming in. I think Santosh is also working on data science things, so we can map it, all the images together. So anyway,
We'll empty all the museums and bring them back. Don't worry.
yes, that'd be amazing. So really thanks on behalf of VHS Karnataka, and really appreciate it. And let's also
Thank
thank
you.
our VHS Karnataka State President Shri Shaji and Santosh, co-host, and of course the technical team, Tejas, uh, and Ishwar Iyer and Gadagi Rakesh behind the scene. They're not to be here now, but they're working from behind. And last but not least, Dhanyawad to our wonderful viewers who made this online Samvada successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
one
you,
and
Vijay.
all.
Thank you.
Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you.